This is a video I have been waiting to make for a very long time. I want to talk about the way I built a six-figure music career that has lasted until now. It's still going on, not necessarily making the same amount as I was making a few years ago, but I want to talk about how you can build a music production career like I did. It's how I have lived for the past 20-something years, and it's still my top music income. In this video, I want to talk about what I feel are the best ways that you can start step by step to build a music production career, and that can add to all your music income, including licensing, including royalties, including gigs, and anything else that you might do musically to make music income. I've done all of those things as well during this time. As a music producer, I've done gigs, I've done licensing things, and I've done all sorts of stuff, getting royalties and all sorts of music incomes, teaching, all that. Eventually, I think this entire video script will become a full ebook where I talk about each of these steps in detail. But for now, I just wanted to make a video and kind of talk about how I became a six-figure music producer. And here's the thing, completely outside of the music business. I didn't have any fancy music label that hired me. I never was in a big band. And then I got out and I could always say I was with this band. I never produced a superstar artist and had that on my resume. I did it all by just doing the steps I'm about to teach you in here. So, are you ready to build a six-figure music producing career? Well, of course you are. First, before I get into all this music production stuff, let's talk about the free stuff I have for you right now that might help you if you are just finding this channel for the first time or you haven't downloaded it yet. You can go to makemusicincome.com/free. I have all sorts of stuff there. I have a free ebook called 50 Ways to Make Music Income. Totally free, might help you figure out some ways, including music producing, that might help you get to the next level with your income streams. I also have a short course if you've been wanting to upload to some of these stock music libraries. I have a free Pond 5 course on how to upload to Pond 5 once you're accepted. And so you can get that for free. And then I have a kind of interesting paper that I wrote at the end of my master's degree last year, and it's all about corporate music. And if you want to read a formal graduate music paper about corporate music and stock music and royalty-free music, you may not have ever seen anything like this. Also free, also at makemusicincome.com/free. Okay, so what is a music producer? I feel like a music producer is someone who guides a music project along, mainly for an artist, but could be for a label, but you're still likely working for some kind of artist or band. You're making sure everything is done, from figuring out what songs are going to be recorded, to finding out what kind of album the artist wants to make, to arrangements, to recording, to vocals, and then, of course, mixing and mastering. I've had 5 figures and even 6-figure income years as a music producer. As a company, that's not really what I personally make. Thanks, accounting. I've been blessed to work in some of the best studios with the best players and engineers and just creatives of all kinds for years. But how did I build this? How did I start and grow? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's get started with step 1. Step 1 is really easy. I started with my music. I mean, I didn't just say, okay, I'm going to go to music producer school. I'm going to go buy a book on how to produce music, and I actually did read a lot of books about how to produce music, but I didn't really just say, okay, I'm going to become a music producer and just become one. I started producing my own music. I mean, I think that's the way all of us pretty much start. I came up with a company name and a label, and I started putting that on the back of the products that I was making of my own music. I built a website, and I was one of the first people to start building websites. This was back a long time ago when websites were just starting up. And here's the most important part. I built a portfolio of the things that I have recorded. Some of them may have not been just my music. Some of them may have been some other people I had recorded locally, but it was basically a way for people to hear what I was doing. Now, at that time, it was likely a CD versus something online, but I did have my portfolio, also little clips, probably not full songs, online for people to download and or hear to see if I was doing the kind of music they liked. And then I began kind of going to conventions in my niche, in the kind of music that I did. I would hand out business cards, I would hand out CDs, or I would put a table up of some kind at the convention or this particular marketplace or wherever I was, with products that people could take, with business cards people could take, and they could then take and hear what I was doing, and they could hear the music that I was making and say, yeah, that sounds great. I wish he would work with me. And so that's how step one really works. You make the stuff, you show people what you can do, and they hire you because they want that. I think the next step is to start your own home studio. Now, all of you likely have some kind of setup in your home like this, where you have keyboards set up, you have a computer and speakers and things like that. It may not necessarily, though, be a place where you can bring in people. So you may need to reconfigure your room, your recording. This takes a little bit of changing around, maybe what room you're in. Maybe you move into the basement that's got a separate entrance. That's pretty important, especially if the people you live with don't want strangers walking through the living room or past the bedroom or whatever. You might have to be more careful with this step to put it in a place where it's a little bit more private and it's a little bit more professional. I had a modest home studio with a computer and speakers and some keyboards, obviously. And then I obviously had a microphone that artists could come in and sing into. Eventually, I started doing work online. I started getting people coming in from out of town that wanted to do recordings. These days, I would probably start with something like Fiverr or Upwork and do online work for online clients. And you maybe have done that already. But production for online clients can be very profitable. Like I said, at this stage, you're working online with people and you're working with people that come to your home recording studio to work with you. And this is kind of stage 2. So the obvious next step with your music production career is to move out of the laboratory, moving out of your basement, moving out of your man cave or your woman cave or whatever cave you have where you have all your stuff at home, and moving out into the local and regional studios in your area. This is where you can start to bring clients in who are local, regional, maybe even out of town, and they come to your town to record with you in a professional studio. Now remember, I'm a composer and arranger, and then I built a career as a producer. I'm not an engineer. I still don't really bill myself as an engineer. I bill myself as a producer for clients or as a composer to libraries and licensing companies. But I would bring outside clients into town, and we would work, instead of at my house, we would start to work at local studios. I think that's kind of step 3. You have to move from showing people your music to doing music in your home and maybe bringing clients in your home. And then the next step is to move out into your local area studios and start working with local talent and regional talent and maybe even out of town talent that comes in to work with you in the town where you live. I think the next step for you is to move into a music city of some kind, into what we call a music center, which is a professional place where people come to and recognize as a place that they may want to go to record their music, because not only do they want to work with you, they want to visit this town. Some people may even come here on vacation to, number 1, work on their music, but number 2, sport about town and find out what's going on in that music city. In my case, that was Nashville. I was going back and forth, attending conferences, and eventually I had started doing my mastering of all my projects in Nashville. I wasn't but about 3 hours away from Nashville from where I started. And by the way, my number 3, my local area, was the Lexington, Kentucky, Central Kentucky area. And so that's the region I worked in. And then I was very close to Nashville, about 3 hours away. So I started going to Nashville to do this and that, attend conferences, also meet with different people in the business there, and also to do my mastering projects there. After many trips, it just made sense for us to move there and take the business that I had started in Kentucky to Nashville. And here's what happened. Clients came in droves. Suddenly, all they wanted to do was be in Nashville. Come to Nashville. Nashville is, especially for certain genres, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but it's their heart's desire. It's their lifelong dream to come to Nashville and record, especially if you're in one of these genres, country or gospel Christian or Americana. There's a lot of things that now Nashville does, but it's mainly known for some of those. But people are coming to Nashville anyway for conferences, and you're probably going to be at those conferences. And if you're smart, you'll have a table set up with your production business there at those conferences. So people coming there will see you, get your card, and hear your music so that they know they want to work with you. Clients will always want to come to a major music center. So let's talk about what these major music centers might be. Obviously Nashville, obviously Los Angeles, where they've been recording pop and rock and everything out there in Los Angeles. And it's not just about Hollywood. It's also been a very big recording town, and everybody wants to go to Los Angeles. The other city, the other music center that we often talk about among the big three is New York City. And everybody wants to go to New York City, even if they are just visiting and seeing all the sights and all that kind of stuff. If you have a studio in one of the boroughs like Brooklyn or Queens or Long Island or someplace like that, that's tangentially next to Manhattan and New York City, well, that is a big draw, just like Nashville is, just like Los Angeles is. And it might be wherever those people are in the country where it makes the most sense for them to go to. And then it's going to also make the most sense for you to move to one of those or the other. For me, Nashville was 3 hours away. It made the most sense. And my particular niche, which was Christian and gospel at that time, that industry is based in Nashville. So it made the most sense for me. Other genres, other cities, depending on where you are located in the U.S., if you're in the U.S., will make more sense for you. Now, I think there are niche markets still in other cities. So we're talking Atlanta for hip hop and really anything, Chicago for rap and other things, Miami for Latin and lots of other things, Austin, Portland, Seattle, Minneapolis, New Orleans, Memphis. There's a lot of cities in the U.S. that have specialties. If I've missed your town or the town you think is important in the United States for music production, leave that in the comments below. Would love to know what you think, and tell me about your particular market and your city and why it's great for bringing clients in there to record. And as we go around the world, and I know a lot of you listening are in Europe or other places other than the US, we're talking places like London, we're talking places like Paris, we're talking places like Tokyo, Seoul, Berlin. There's a lot of those things. And that's another thing I would love for you to leave in the comments below. Where are great studios? Let me know the cities that you think are great for recording in major music centers around the world that I'm not mentioning here. We all might think, hey, it's all about me. They want to come work with me. And they might, but they also probably won't mind visiting a city they've always wanted to go to, especially if you are there and you have studio facilities there that they can come work in. Or if they're just going to come work with you and write in an office or in your home studio or something like that. But this is where in a major music center, you likely probably want to have another place you can go to, not necessarily a recording facility. We'll talk about that later. I had a few six-figure years in Nashville as a company when I was there, and I owe that, a lot of that, to the draw of Nashville as the city where a lot of my clients wanted to come for visiting, but also because that's where the industry was that they were trying to get into. So you can do this too. Start at home, build your home studio, and start bringing clients in. Then expand locally and regionally and start producing around your area, maybe even online. Expand to a music center that you can bring people to. People want to come there. It will be an added bonus. It will be an added feature of working with you, is that they get to come to this fabulous music center and these fabulous places they've always wanted to visit. Have a great portfolio of stuff that they can't say no to. All they have to do is listen and say, yes, that's what I want. Let me know what you think of all of this, and hopefully you can bring in 5-6 figures of music income as a music producer, and that could end up being your big music life like it was mine for so long. So I hope this has helped. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.